All right, here we go again. Thank you for joining us and listening to Bill and Teona Wine About the Region, where we talk about government and the politics behind it, nonprofit and the people behind it, business and the money behind it. Let's go.
We'd like to thank you for tuning in to hear Bill and Teona Wine About the Region. Our second show is underway.
Yes, ma'am.
If you have ideas or topics of people to interview for the show or interested in advertising or sponsoring the show, message us on Facebook at BT Winery or email us at btwinery@gmail.com. Second show!
Second show. Congratulations, my co-host.
Congratulations to you, too.
All right.
We are definitely on a roll here. We have got up 2 Saturdays in a row.
I know.
Really.
Who could have saw this coming?
I know. I don't know. But what I will be glad of is when we can possibly record the shows at night.
I know. Just a little background. I know we had mentioned this last week, and we've obviously talked about it on our previous shows with other guests. We do the wine about the region. We bring a bottle or two of wine where everybody can just sort of relax. It sort of breaks the ice, and we can just sort of have a kitchen table discussion. But since we're live and it's 8 o'clock in the morning,
we ain't been
we
able
don't
to
want to
have
look
our
crazy.
wine.
Yeah, exactly.
So we are missing our wine and our concept of our show, but we're definitely doing what we got to do, and we got some great guests. I had some delicious spaghetti last night. I have to say that on here. I like to shout out Carla.
Right.
And I also like to say that this year, for my birthday, I will possibly be in a relationship.
Is that right?
Yes,
I thought I saw something like. Did I see
will.
something on Facebook?
Not yet, but I think
So you booed up? Is
I
that?
think
You
I
might be
think
booed
it's
up.
coming. I think that it's time. I've had a lot of fun birthdays in the last few years.
Well, see, that maybe folks can give you a break about whether or not we together.
I know. Most definitely, Bill. Most definitely, because they say
we can't just do a show together and be cool.
I'm glad you're addressing that because
Like Jesus.
we definitely get a lot like, hold on, and what's up?
What's up?
Yeah, so I just have to, and he knows who he is, and I just want to say, he's special. So,
All right.
coming soon.
All right. You remember his name? I was messing with you.
You know what?
Never mind.
Just because I want to do that. All right. So, Bill.
All right. Well, we want to thank Paul Berry and the folks here at WGNU 920 AM for the opportunity to talk to the community we both care so much about. So first up, we have 8th Congressional District candidate Kathy Ellis.
Yay!
Come on, Kathy.
Good morning. Kathy got up this morning.
That's right. It's great to be here.
Kathy got up this morning to fool with Bill and Teona. How about that? Don't you feel special?
I do feel special.
She drove. Tell us how far you drove this morning.
It takes me about a little bit over an hour to get here.
Okay.
So I had to get up pretty early this morning. It was dark, and I
thank
turned the light on, and I heard an owl go off.
We thank you, Kathy. We thank you.
Pleasure
All
to
right.
be here.
Well, like Teona said, Kathy, it's nice to have you here. So, I guess why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, especially for folks, our listeners that might not be familiar with you.
Okay. Yeah, I currently live in the 8th Congressional District, and
Where is that?
that is southern Jefferson County, and it's basically, that's the northernmost point of it, and it is sort of between Highway 55 and Highway 44. It's everything that's in between there. It's a 30-county district. It's a lot of miles. It takes me 4 hours to get from my house to the farthest most point of the district. So it's a huge district. It's got a lot of rural areas. It's got a lot of really, really crooked roads. And
I wouldn't want to be out there when it get dark. I hate being far when it get dark, Kathy.
I actually grew up in the House Springs area in Jefferson County, and so I have been a clinical social worker and addictions counselor for over 35 years. And I've worked in a whole variety of places throughout St. Louis City and St. Louis County prior to working in my own private practice. And so I've always been interested in politics, but never really participated. And so what brought me to politics this time around is after the 2016 election, I decided I needed to do something different in my life, and so I went to the Women's March in Washington, and it was life-changing. And I decided that even though I serve on a couple of boards in the county, serve on a community health center board, I serve on a domestic violence board, I needed to do more for my county, and I needed to do more for the people in my district because I knew they were suffering. So that's when I decided to run. But I was one of those folks that worked for candidates, didn't do a whole lot, and then it's like, well, you know what? I'm getting older. It's go big or go home.
I know that's
so
right.
I decided to take my opposition on in 2018 and run in 2018, and
You did good.
we organized it, and now we're ready to do the deed, get it done, and get somebody in there that cares about folks.
Wow. Well, before I ask you my question, I didn't tell you how I met Kathy.
I was actually just about to add, I wanted you to share that with listeners because
we're here.
Exactly.
We're the same, so.
How did the two of you meet?
Okay, so I'm at the National Convention for the Women's Political Caucus, and I'm getting in there late because I had a lot of other panels and stuff I was doing.
Where was the National Convention?
It was downtown.
It was here in the city?
Yeah, it was in St. Louis, and where was it? It was downtown. What was the name of that hotel? I forget now.
The Westin?
That's it,
Yeah.
the Westin. So when I would go in, because we're having dinner. There was different dinners that we went to, but I go in, and there weren't too many tables because they were all filled. And so her table was empty, and and it just proved to be, it's like, Teona, were you being racist? Because I wasn't trying to, but I was kind of like, oh my God. And I'm kind of like, well, a little nice June Cleaver here. June Cleaver for me. So I'm
I
like,
didn't have the pearls on. Come on,
but I'm
give me
like,
a break.
okay. I said, forget it, Teona, go sit down. She seemed like a nice lady. So when I sat down, when I tell you, Kathy was breaking it down and talking about like issues that affect African Americans, and then she hit it within the middle, and I'm sick and tired. Threw out a curse word. I was like, okay. I said yes. So it was like love at first sight. It was like, okay, she's down to earth. She's on my level. We can talk about the same things.
There you go.
And it was great. Then, I met her assistant. They were sitting there. And before we even got on the radio, Kathy was like, oh, I'm coming on. So she was coming on even before all of this. She was interested. She said
she was already going to get on the podcast.
Oh, yeah. She was down from
Okay.
the beginning. And her assistant said she's willing to come outdoors in Ferguson for me while I'm running. So I was like, Kathy, want to come in? I said, you know what? This is getting better and better and better. So never judge a book by its cover. That's what I want to tell our listeners and our viewers. And always sit down to that nice lady that looks like Jim Cleaver. All right.
No, actually, that's my mother that looks like Jim.
Okay. Well, I'm just saying, never judge a book by its cover, guys. Just sit down and always talk to that person. So, the 8th District, what does that include for our listeners?
And that's just so people have a concept of it, the 8th District, isn't it the largest district geographically in the state?
It is actually the second largest.
It's big.
It's big.
Yeah.
And it's the direct result of when you lose population, you expand the district to have a congressional seat. Okay. And it's also a victim of gerrymandering. So it's the compilation of a lot of different, former districts that we had into one very large, very diverse district. Mm-hmm. And so you'll see that, we do go all the way to the Arkansas state line, includes the Boot Heel. It includes everything over to almost Springfield. It goes up to Rolla and then back across to Jefferson County. So it is a huge swath. It's like 1/4 of the southeast, southwest Missouri region.
It's big.
It's big.
It's very big. All right, well, aside from being a U.S. citizen,
yes,
what do you think qualifies you to represent the great state of Missouri as its 8th District Congresswoman?
Well, one of the things that I think is important to look at are the people that run for office need to be public servants. and there's emphasis on being a servant.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I have done in my career is that I've worked with all kinds of people. And I've worked with so many kinds of situations. You know, one of the things that I work with a lot is trauma survivors. So, you know, that's one of the issues that I think that all people deal with very differently. And some people get angry, some people, you know, are scared, some people act out, some people don't. It's the responsibility of every good public servant who goes into politics to listen to the constituents. And in my district, our current rep, Jason Smith, only listens to the people that give him money, and he has said that. He said, my constituents are the people that vote for me and give me money. So I want to be a representative of the entire district. And I will tell you that very early on when I went out and started seeing people, I had about 70 people down in Mountain View, which is in the southwest part of the district. And they really just needed to talk. They needed to talk about how isolated they were. They needed to talk about how they felt that there was nobody else in the area that thought like they did. They wanted the change in their district, and they see this district as dying, and they wanted to do something more for it. And I just listened to them because that's what they needed. And then we began to talk, and then we began to look, how do we solve these problems? So all of my career, that's what I've done. I've organized, I've listened, and I help people solve the problems. So it's a real fit. And everybody, I think we want people who look like us in government. We want people who know what it's like. We want people to have a representative that understands when they're suffering and how they can begin to help them and empower them to help others.
I told you she wasn't no joke, Bill.
I heard you. That was heartfelt.
Okay, why did you decide to run again in Red Rural District?
Well, you know, yeah, I thought about that for quite a while, and I knew that our work wasn't done. And we did a very good job of organizing this district. And, you know, 65,000 miles on my car. I only got hit by one deer. I will tell you, the deer hit me. I did not hit it.
Those deers.
And so,
Those
you know,
deers are so
No, I'm laughing because I know what that's like.
Yeah.
I hit a deer when I was 16, and it scared the mess
oh my
out
gosh,
of me.
I know. And then the deer just ran off. It's like my car is like messed up.
So they really do mess your car up. 'Cause
Well, and you always hear about that deer in the headlights.
Yeah.
But it doesn't really compute when you're driving towards it, because you're thinking to yourself, there's no way this deer is just going to stay
Right,
there.
right.
There's no way.
and they do.
But they do.
I've seen them.
They would
I'm
just look
scared to
dead
death
at
of
Oh
them.
you.
yeah.
It's,
Oh yeah.
it's amazing. I was amazed. Anyway, I'm sorry. Go on.
So after the deer hit, you know, I got the rental car and continued on my path, and we were able to organize the districts, and so we had people that were very strong leaders in their areas, and we really cultivated that to make sure that, you know, we had somebody that we could contact if something was going on. They knew when they wanted to invite us down, and, you know, all that kind of stuff. And so I decided, when I got a phone call from the Medicare for All people and from a couple of different organizations who started out by saying, Kathy, you're the one that knows everything about the 8th district. We want to bring Planned Parenthood in. We want to bring Medicare, you know, all of this information to these people about, you know, Medicare for All, and just things that they'd never gotten in there before. So I called up my Taylor Jackson had been my person that was doing a lot of organizing, and she worked about the last 3-4 months of the campaign in 2018, and she did a great job. And so I called her up and I said, maybe we could talk. She said, I've just been waiting for you. I knew you were going to run, and I want to run your campaign.
Smart.
And I said, we're done.
Okay.
Okay.
Taylor is your campaign manager.
Yes.
Okay.
She's
Yes.
very smart.
And-
I like Taylor.
Yeah, and so we began to look at this district, and we saw that it's a paradox, because this was a district that passed all the progressive ballot initiatives. Okay? Medical marijuana, minimum wage,
Okay.
clean Missouri, you know, no on right to work. Okay.
So why
This
can't
was-
you get elected? You definitely can get it
because
done.
even in 2016, Bernie Sanders got more votes than Hillary Clinton in the primary from that district.
Yeah.
Okay.
So then we did the drill down and we looked at it. Well, it's about 1/3 Republicans, it's about 1/3 Democrats, and it's about 1/3 independents.
So you
Okay.
don't want on those
So then, you know, we're
independents.
looking at all of the precincts, and then we're seeing, okay, here are people that are Democrats who haven't voted in 4 or 5 cycles. So those are the people that we want to go develop a relationship with.
Okay.
Now, it's really hard to go canvassing because, you know, you're trying to follow a map and the only thing you got
Oh
is
my
numbers.
God! Let me say real quick, canvassing in Baldwin and Festus is way different from canvassing in Ferguson and Berkeley. Those houses are so. It's like you could only do about 3 words. Berkeley, you finna did 20.
That's right.
So when it comes to that, you remember
3 houses,
do the close houses.
15
I
miles
want to say
apart.
do them first, cause oh my goodness, but yeah.
But you go see them and you knock on the doors.
Yeah, but you're
You know?
looking at them like, oh, should I even knock on this door?
The
like,
driveway is as long as the regular street is.
right? It's just like make you just want to imagine that your life was just better. You know, like, it's like look at this. Well, where I'm from, it's like wow, look at this. So I've seen some really good houses being out helping people. Especially Kevin, when I have Kevin. Kevin has the nicest houses in this district, Kevin Fitzgerald. I don't know if you know Kevin. I'm sure you
Yeah,
know Kevin.
oh, yeah.
Oh my God.
I saw Kevin in Clayton 2 days ago.
But you know, one of the things that I also feel very strongly about is, and are a lot of people in, I would say we'll say a lot of Democrats don't understand the necessity of going to rural areas. And I will, you know, really, I will speak the truth about this. We have lost elections in the rural districts. We need to get people out to meet people in the rural districts. If we had presidential candidates that showed up and started to go to the rural areas, everybody would come out for it. Because how many times do you get to see a presidential candidate? I've had people that said, nobody's ever knocked on my door before. I've never seen any of my representatives. So in order to begin to have this blue wave in rural areas, we got to work them. We've got to go out there and we've got to be a presence. So that's one of the reasons that I'm going, is I want to create a legacy so that whether I win or not, we will have moved that needle a little bit more. We moved it in 2018. We're going to move it again. It
Don't
is a
give up.
marathon. It is not a sprint,
That's
but
right.
it's a necessary one. And
give
you know, I
up.
would encourage anybody out there, think about running for office.
You see how she talked with it?
I know.
The man me thinking she was Joe Cleveland and then sit down and she talking like that. I was like, okay. I do have a question for you, but before I ask this question, I just want to say, so you're running for Congress and you understand that Cori Bush is running for Congress, right?
Mhm.
Cori Bush, of course, she will not raise as much money that you're going to raise, and that's just for some reason, as African American women, we don't raise as much as white women. What I like to know from you a little bit is how, you know, you need her. You know, you all are a team, basically. So, far as with your campaign, have you thought about, hey, she's over here and she's running, and I know you got your own deal to worry
Right,
about, but how do you form that team and kind of reach out or help her? Have you thought about some ways to kind of bring her along?
Well, actually, we've been playing phone tag for some months here.
Okay,
So-
good. Well, that's good
Yeah,
to
so-
know.
We,
that-
we almost had her here today.
Yeah, we're gonna have a pop up with her. Yeah, my girl, she could come through, but I just want you to think about her.
Oh,
and just
absolutely.
think about how
And
much
you know,
she's
one of the
gonna
things that we were
struggle.
thinking about is having a joint fundraiser.
Great.
In the city. So,
Right.
you know, that's a way that, you know, both of us, I think we have a lot in common.
Yeah,
Cities
y'all
and
just gotta
rural
sit
areas.
down
You
and
know,
probably
we have
talk.
people that have a lot of needs that aren't being
Okay.
addressed.
Well, that's good to know. Well, let me get back to my question, but that was on my heart, so I
Yeah.
had to bring that out. What are two or three top issues facing the district, and how do you propose to address them?
Okay, so let me just give you a little bit of an overview. The 8th district is the 11th poorest district in the country. in the 16 counties surrounding the Boot Heel, 1/3 of the children there are food insecure. We have tariffs that are killing the family farms that are left. We have a high suicide rate among farmers and among just general citizenry in the area. We have a huge opioid epidemic.
Yes.
We have a huge STD epidemic.
Okay.
Syphilis is just starting to hollow out that whole
I
district
saw
at this
something
point.
on that.
And so we have so many issues that it's really hard to pinpoint one. But I would say the overriding issue is healthcare.
Okay.
And the hospitals close. You have to go 2 hours to find a hospital. Some people go to other states to get their medical care. Good luck if you have a heart attack.
See?
You know, the mother-infant mortality in the Boot Heel is one of the highest in the nation. That is unacceptable.
Yeah, that's true.
And so,
I hope you fight hard too for mental health, because
absolutely.
there's some guys, even when they're getting out of prison, they give them so much medicine, and then when they're out,
Right.
they don't really know how to go get their. I think it needs to be an overwhelming amount of information about this is how you get
Yes.
medicine if you can't afford it.
Exactly.
And there's not enough information out here for that. So what do? You get this person that has ran out of medicine, and now they're going through something mentally, and they could do something
Yes.
that they could regret. So
Yes.
that needs to be something.
Yes,
that
and one of the things that we know, and after working in the mental health field for as many years as I have, what we know is one of the biggest non-providers of mental health care are the prisons.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
And the numbers are staggering. How many people need mental health care?
Yeah.
They
it
need
is.
counseling, they need medication.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
so-
well, I'm glad you're on that.
Oh, yeah.
Because that's
And-
important to
and-
me.
That's
But so I
definitely
think
important.
that's got to be included in the healthcare. I also look as domestic violence is a
Oh, yeah.
healthcare issue as
Yeah.
well.
I got somebody I want you to meet on that, and we'll talk about that later.
Okay.
You get it, Bill.
All right. Well, of course, you ran in 2018 for the same congressional seat. I think your opponent, Jason Smith, had 74% of the vote. You had around 25.
Yeah.
Okay, so you rolled around the state in a new car, put 65,000 miles on it. You hit a deer.
Yeah.
But how did you get to the point where you can increase your appeal to these constituents that you want to
Right.
lead in that district?
Well, I think that first of all, we now know that Facebook is a very effective tool, and we did that toward the end when we had enough money to do it.
Yeah, I heard Facebook does okay.
Yeah. And so
I can
it's
kinda
been,
answer that for her
it's
too,
been,
Bill.
it's been
She's
extremely
visible.
helpful. And so we're in the process now of building our call list.
Okay.
And, our email addresses that we have, and we're collecting those. That's really important just in terms of reaching out. But it's still the most important thing that we can do right now is to reach out to a more diverse group of people. So we're starting to do forums. We did our first forum, and that was on healthcare in Iron County. Now, Iron County is one of the areas where the hospital is being threatened by closure. So we had a whole bunch of people fill up the library, and it was a wonderful, robust conversation. So we're going to repeat that model. We've got 10 more of those already before, I think, December. So we're going to be doing them on different topics, and the people are directing what they're going to have on their forum, and they're inviting the folks that they want to have on their panel. So I will be on each of these panels.
Okay, great. Well, sometimes we gotta kind of make sure we're making our timing right.
Okay.
I do want to say you live in Festus with your spouse Ann.
Mhm.
How do the LGBTQ issues figure into your campaign platform, and how do you get conservative voters to support you?
Well, not every conservative voter is going to support me, that's for sure. But I think the reality of it is it's in the messaging. It's in how are you a person who is authentic? We thought it was very important from the very beginning to tell people that this is the reality, that this is a gay person here who has a spouse and got married after went to Iowa when it was not legal yet in Missouri to get married. And so it is a strong issue for me, because one of the things that I've heard from so many people that live in, you know, the very, very most wooded areas, the most point of the district areas, they come up to me and say, thank you so much.
Yeah.
I'm gay, and we've never had a voice. We live in fear of being outed by everybody because it's dangerous.
When I started hearing about you, like even through the caucus and all that, that was one of the first things that I heard. So you are like a, you know, that person to push that forward,
Yeah.
because people are like, go, Kathy, go. They need you.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Bill.
Okay. What should the 8th district, 8th congressional district residents be concerned about with respect to the current Republican incumbent? Like, what do you think they should be concerned about? What concerns you about his representation of this district?
He really does not care about the people. And he usually gets elected just because there's one box with an R by it and they mark it. And what he's gonna go with anything that Trump says. And he basically
You lost my support right
he has
there.
contempt. He has contempt for anybody that is. For example, he always talks about how if people get sick, it's their fault and we shouldn't have to cover them. Yeah. He says about water. He said, you know, he said, if I've got water on my land, it's not a clean water issue. I can do whatever I want with that water because that's my puddle of water.
Goodness.
And so
He's
this
harsh.
is somebody that really does not care. He got plopped in during a special election that nobody can seem to remember. It was like in February or something about 8 years ago, and he's been there ever since. And so, you know, I think that it is important that somebody who really cares, who really wants to do the hard work of finding solutions, needs to be in office. And I don't care if you're Democrat, if you're Republican, if you're an independent, you deserve good representation.
Yes, you do. A lot of farming goes on in your district in Missouri.
A lot.
A lot.
Yeah.
Tell me some real world stories about how President
Trump's tariffs
Yeah, you
are
forget it.
affecting
Missouri
Missouri
farmers.
farmers.
Well, you know, the bigger farms generally have more revenue. Agribusiness is not being too dramatically impacted because most of the help money that he's sending out is going to the big farms. So, but it's the small farmer. It's the farmer who's had that farm for generations that's suffering. And they can't meet their bills. Bankruptcy's happening. But the most significant thing is I had a gentleman come up to me at a little meet and greet in Oregon County, and he says, you know, my grandfather had cancer, and he refused to go to the hospital, and he refused to get any treatment. And when it got so bad, he went out in the field, took a shotgun, and he shot himself in the head.
Oh, no.
Because he didn't want to have all the medical bills. He didn't want all of the debt. He didn't want the family farm to be sold. And so he decided that was the only solution.
Wow.
And that kind of story is repeated over and over.
You wouldn't even think so either.
Wow. Yeah.
Go ahead, Bill. So we can
And
keep
so
it
that's a
moving.
combination of two issues. That's the tariffs, and it's also no health care. It's affordable and available.
Okay. So yeah, so that's somebody having to deal with two difficult situations in their life, and only feeling like there is no way out.
Exactly.
So
exactly.
That's unfortunate. All right. Well, to a higher note, what are you most proud of regarding your campaign or with your time as a candidate? What are you most proud of accomplishing?
You know, I'm really proud of just having so many good people that are in that district that want to do the right thing, that see that there are great odds against that happening, but they continue to suit up and show up. And so if that's something that gives me inspiration. That you show up and I'm going to do it too. I'm going to be there when you need something. I'm going to be on that phone. I give people my cell phone number. They call me as if I'm the representative already because they say I can't even get through to Jason Smith's office. And if I do, they say something stupid and I don't get any information. So they call me and I'm giving out information. I've done that since the first time around. The first week I started getting calls. But that's important. And I want to have that kind of connection to my constituents. So if they say, hey, I got Kathy's number, I'm going to call her because I'm getting nowhere with her office, then that's the way it's going to be. Because that's the way that I've had my practice. People can call me 24/7. I have been on call basically 35 years, 24/7.
Oh my God. And then you still got somebody else, a partner in your life? I'd be like, wait a minute.
Well, fortunately, I always say, go through your support system first, and if you absolutely can't solve the problem or if you need help, that's when you call me.
And when people feel that connection with you, especially voters, you'll always have their support.
Yeah. So, Kathy, what can people in St. Louis City and St. Louis County, which I want them to know is definitely important to be involved with her race, just because you've heard some of the areas that she's from don't mean that she don't need you for as word of mouth. And other things, where can they find you and what can city and county people do to help your campaign?
Well, probably the best thing that they can do is, if you know somebody who lives in the 8th District, to call them and say, hey, we have another alternative to a candidate who's running for office, who's got some good ideas. You can go to my website, which is ellisforcongress.com. And read through my bio and what I stand for, and if you feel that you want to help support us, then you can just click a button and have that happen. It's got every bit of information that you need about how to contact me. If you'd like to do a meet and greet, I would love to do that. If that means that you also want to have one of the candidates from your area there, I'll do them with, we'll split the proceeds if we want to do that.
Hey, Kathy's really good to work with. I'm glad that you're here today. And I want to thank you for joining us.
Well, thank you for letting me be here. It's been fun, and I always love seeing you and talking to you because we kind of are sort of on the same wavelength.
But I'm telling you, it was kind of like, what can I talk about with this lady?
Next time I see you, I've got to bring you a set of pearls.
She's like, okay, we're gonna get our pearls.
And on that
thank
note,
you, Kathy. We're gonna have you switch over.
Appreciate you coming in, but we would like you to stick around.
Stick around, girl. Have some water.
I will.
Molly would have said have some wine, but have some water, girl.
All right, we would like you to stick around as we bring on our next guest, and our next guest is the candidate for Secretary of State for the great state of Missouri.
Woo!
This is Yinka Faleti. How we doing today, sir?
I'm doing
Give this
great.
man a hand.
Doing great.
Are
Thanks so much
you?
for having
Now
me.
look, you just kind of bust on the scenes, and it was like,
He's got a great suit on.
you look fabulous.
People
You
listen to
look
us on the
very
radio
good
can't see the
today.
suit, but I guarantee you it's a good looking suit.
Yeah, but I gotta give it to you because it's like, wow. When I heard you were running, I was like, yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks so much.
So, you're running as a Democrat for Secretary of State. Are you expecting any other folks?
To get in this race.
Yeah, so first I want to just appreciate you, Teona and Bill, for having me. It's terrific to be on your show, and thank you, Kathy, for your energy and vigor. If you could feel it through the radio, she is a spitfire, and you can tell that she really cares about the people of her district, and so we're rooting for her. As of right now, we're not aware, or nor the party leadership aware of anyone else on the Democratic side raising their hand to run for this race. We think we'll be unopposed in the primary, but there's still time. But as of right now, I think I'll be the only candidate on the Democratic side.
Okay, well, how about this? Let's give you just an open floor to just talk about yourself. Give us your background. I read the little things like he's done some big stuff, like Army prosecutor, Forward Through Ferguson, United Way.
But Secretary
people
like,
State,
what? A black man is running for Secretary. Let's keep it real, Billy. People are like, what is going on? So it's like, you the man right now. Like you just like boom.
Give,
Tell us
give,
about
give
yourself.
us some of your background.
Yeah, so I've been here for 15 years. I moved to St. Louis
Where you been? On a rock? No, I'm just playing.
in 2004, and I moved here. Actually, I moved here in August of 2004. My last day in the Army was in August of 2004. Prior to moving here, I was an Army officer. I'd served 6 years on active duty. My first duty station was Fort Hood, Texas. You might remember this guy named Saddam Hussein. That name sound familiar?
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah.
That rings a bell.
Yeah.
So I served on tanks and in tank units, and every year the U.S. Army would send tanks to Kuwait to be a deterrent force to Saddam Hussein. Like, Saddam, we're here, don't try anything. So we deployed to Kuwait in 2001 before September 11th. We came back in August of 01, and we thought, wow, that was great. We'll probably never have an opportunity to do that again in our career. In those days, it was kind of a once-in-a-career kind of thing. A few weeks later, September 11th happened, and we deployed again to Kuwait.
So
And
you were active before September 11th and after.
Correct. Yeah, I started my active duty time in the Army in 1998. So I served from 98 to 2004.
Was it
No,
scary?
You know, it felt more than scary. It felt awesome to be able to do something. You might remember after 9/11, everybody was
Wanted to
angry.
do it.
Everybody wanted to take some action. Who did this to our country? How could this happen? And I felt so fortunate to have been part of a group of a few people who could actually do something about it. And so it felt terrific to have had that opportunity to serve. So after Kuwait, came back to Fort Hood, from Fort Hood to Fort Knox. So if you ever get a call with a 270 area code number, please pick up.
You heard that, viewers. What is it again? 270. Okay.
Fort Knox was my last duty station before I moved here to St. Louis, so I just kept the number. So I've had that number for years.
But if you're gonna be Secretary of State, you're gonna have to do the 314 thing.
Well, we've got that one too.
Okay. All right. So why are you running?
Well, I am running because our democracy is under attack. Our right to vote is under attack. Our choice and voice as a people is under attack. Our ballot initiative process is under attack. And just like when our country was under attack after 9/11, when we are under attack, we fight back. We cannot just lay down and take it. We must respond. There's a quote that pushes me every day. It's a quote that Edmund Burke originated and Martin Luther King often said in his speeches: the only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is for good men and women to do nothing. And we can't do nothing. So, you know, when you look at this in this state over the last couple of years, the terrific wins for the people have come through the ballot initiative process. You talk about right to work, minimum wage, medical marijuana, Clean Missouri, all ballot initiatives, direct democracy initiatives where the people themselves said, we want to take action. And so that process must be respected, and it must be honored.
It must be protected. Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. And everybody, no matter who you are, where you're from, how much money you make, you've got a right to vote. Your vote is equal to the richest person in the state. It's equal to the richest person in this country.
I'm glad you said that.
And we want to make sure that we protect that for all people, no matter who they are, what part of the state they're from, what they do for a living.
Okay, well, what inspires you, just in a general sense? How have you gotten to this place where this has become so important to you? What inspired you to get there?
Well, the inspiration started a long time ago. I was born in Lagos, Nigeria. I came to the U.S. when I was 7. Our family came piecemeal. My dad first, 3 years later my mom, and I did not get a visa, so I lived with my grandparents in Nigeria. I didn't come until 4 years after my mom. I actually met my 2 sisters when I landed at John F. Kennedy Airport. I met them for the first time.
They were already here.
They were born in
Okay.
the U.S. while I was still in Nigeria. And
Got
so
it.
I reached out my hand. I said, "My name is Yinka, and I'm your brother." And that's how we met. And that was the beginning of our family unit in the U.S. I grew up mostly in Florida and Texas, high school in Texas. From Texas, became a citizen and got an opportunity to compete for and get admitted to the U.S. Military Academy at West Point. Wow. And so I got admitted to West Point in '94. I graduated in '98. The 4 years felt like 7 years, but I had great support, great parents, and that's how I got my commission. So and I saw my parents, we grew up pretty poor. I remember there were times when we couldn't afford milk. And so we would put water in the cornflakes, because that's all we had. And so I saw my parents struggle. I saw them making decisions between paying half of the light bill or half of the electric bill.
Tell me about
this
it.
month.
That ain't no old. That's now with a lot of people.
Yeah, yeah. And
Now.
so my upbringing, some of the issues that Kathy talked about, the poverty in her district and in so many districts across this state, I understand that. I grew up in that, and I had an opportunity to work hard and to be able to get to a place where now I can help people. And so if you have the opportunity to serve, I think all of us have an opportunity to do something, and this is my way of giving back, to continue serving and helping the people of this state.
Okay. You're a political newcomer. You know
Yes,
that,
I
right?
am.
How? Because I can tell you, I've ran a few times unsuccessfully. How do you expect to get traction?
Well,
What are you gonna do? You
yeah.
gotta gotta start a snowball, and it's gotta be really big for Secretary of State.
Yeah, you're
So
right.
what's your plan?
Traction is important, and thankfully we're already getting it.
Okay.
We've been out in Kansas City. We've spent 4 out of 7 consecutive days in Kansas City last week. We're going to Jefferson City this weekend. We've got another trip to Kansas City planned on October 25th. Kansas City again, November 7th.
I got some friends in
With-
Kansas City.
Yeah.
I have to hook you up with them. I
Yeah.
call them my angels.
And
But
when you're
yeah.
ready to go to the 8th, I would love to introduce you and help you in any way.
Absolutely,
Go,
Kathy.
Kathy.
And we want to go to the 8th, and we want to be in the Boot Hill and Springfield and Rolla and Sykeston and St. Joseph. And so that's how you get the traction. You go to where the people are, you give people an opportunity to meet you, you meet people, they meet you, and then they can see you and they can feel your passion and energy for the work and for the service. You know, Kathy mentioned something earlier, and it seems so obvious that our public servants have to be people who want to serve. But that's not always the
Some
case.
of it's been lost
Yeah.
sight of. But
Yeah, that's not always the case. We have people in office now who are not in it for the right reasons.
Absolutely.
And so for me, it's about service. And I think when people see that, I think the traction comes.
Well, give us your thoughts on the current Secretary of State, Jay Ashcroft. What's he doing right? What's he doing wrong? Why should we care? Like, why should the average Missourian care? And what does the Secretary of State's office mean to the average Missourian?
This office means everything to the average Missourian.
sure does.
Because everything that Missourians care about, healthcare, good jobs, education, this office is central to all of it, because we get to decide on those things through who we vote for. We get to decide on those things through what issues we support. And if we can't vote for the candidate, or if we can't vote for the ballot initiative, or if our vote is made to not count, or if our vote is not secure, then it doesn't matter. And that's the work of this office. The Secretary of State's office is not to be right, left, or center. It is to allow everybody an equal opportunity to vote, to make it easier to vote, not harder to vote, to reduce barriers to voting, not increase barriers and put up walls to voting. That's the work of the Secretary of State. And that's what I intend to do if I'm so honored to be elected as our next Secretary of State in this great state of Missouri.
What do you think of the current political climate statewide and nationally?
History is being made in the present. 50 years from now, when the people who write history books write about this period, they will have a lot to write. And it will be as vivid and as any period of history.
You know,
time
you'll
in the history of
definitely
this
be
country.
in the history books once you take this seat, right? You know, you first elected African American, which I mean, I want to see it. I'm here for it.
Yeah, we've since this state has been a state since 1821, and we've never had in any of the 6 statewide elected offices, governor, lieutenant governor, secretary of state, attorney general, auditor, treasurer, we've never had anyone of color in those seats. So I think it would be historic. But we're pursuing this, again, for everybody.
Yeah.
No matter who they are.
Yeah.
They ought to be able to vote. and the ballot initiative process ought to be honored. It's not being honored right now. It's under attack right now, and so that's why we're running, and the difference we want to make in this race.
Actually, since you mentioned that, and I had this next up for me, but you mentioned the ballot initiative issues, and you on record as having an issue with Jay Ashcroft's rejection of 3 abortion referendum petitions. Tell us about those, and tell us about where you are in that discussion.
I want every woman and every family in the state to make reproductive health decisions for themselves.
Yes, that's a good thing.
That is something that is in the purview of a woman. A woman has a right to choose and make those decisions.
Amen.
Those are not decisions of the state. And
You
folks.
see, I got my hanger on today. This was given to me, but this is why I have this on, because of that bill that's going around.
Oh, that's terrific. So I see you get it, and like so
I
many
get it.
other women and men across the state who get it, that's a very personal decision.
I'm happy to hear that come from a man, though. Like, I'm happy to hear you. Aren't you, Kathy? Happy to hear him fighting.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I like that.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm married. I have 3 children, and we have one on the way in December.
Okay.
And yeah.
You've been busy, haven't you?
Yeah.
Multitask. I heard that.
It's busy times in our house.
I heard
It's
that.
always boisterous and loud.
And the children come in handy, because I'm telling you, even though I'm out of grown now, they still know we gonna get them doors. We, as a family, ain't nothing better than the voters. Oh my God, this is your dad. They like that. So
Yeah.
send those kids up there to them doors. Ain't that right, Bill?
Absolutely. I almost brought him in here this morning.
You should that would have been
You
cute.
should have.
We
Well, I'll
more
tell you
than
what,
welcome.
and I've told this story before, like the reason why I've been so involved in sort of politics and civic activity is because my dad got me involved when I was 11, so I've been working on campaigns.
Since
Basically,
17.
yeah, basically.
Nah, that's what my son was saying, man.
Basically every election cycle since I was 11, I've been doing this and around this stuff for a long time, and I just can't seem to shake it.
Yeah. You got the bug.
It's addictive.
All right, well, running any campaign takes a lot of money. However, running statewide takes even more. Now, what's your fundraising outlook for the campaign? I see that you have Nicole Galloway's fundraiser, who's a part of your team. So tell us what that looks like for you, and what do you need, or what do you intend to try to raise to get yourself over the finish line?
Yeah, you're so right. The first thing we need, the second thing we need, and the third thing we need is money.
And I bet he's got a website too.
Go on, say your website. Yeah.
Well,
Go on, shout it out.
we have a Facebook page.
Okay.
And so you can go on our Facebook page, Yinka Faleti for Missouri. That's YINKA FALETI for Missouri. And there's a button there that says Learn More, and it links to our Act Blue page. So you can give through Act Blue. So,
And the magic word in my Cardi B voice is money.
remember that song? Money.
All right, so what's your relationship like with other statewide candidates? Obviously, we have Nicole Galloway for governor, Eli Gross for attorney general, and my Betsy, Vicki England. Vicki England's my Betsy. Did you know that? Yeah,
I
she's
did
my
not know
BFF.
that.
Yeah,
Oh,
she's great. So, what are your relationships like? Do you plan on getting to know them, or
Are y'all going to be working together? Is there at least early discussions on how you can coordinate with the campaigns? I mean, assuming that you're the only person on that Democratic ticket.
We have to work together. I think that's the way that we win as Democrats. We've got to work together. I've gotten a chance to know Nicole. She's terrific.
Yeah, Nicole's awesome.
Yeah, I've gotten a chance to know Eli Gross. And I have not yet met your bestie. I have not yet met
Vicky, we need you.
I
You
look
will
forward
meet
to
Vicky. You could have met Vicky last
She was
week.
in here last
Oh,
week.
Vicky was on the show last week. But we'll hook you up with Vicky.
Yeah.
Vicky, she has a fundraiser coming up, so before you leave today,
Okay.
I will give you the flyer, and maybe you can show up and tell her
Terrific.
Teona sent you.
Terrific, yeah.
Go ahead, Bill.
All right. All right. Okay, so Missouri is somewhere between really dark purple and scarlet red when it comes to politics.
Bill didn't have a way with words. He has
So-
such an amazing way with words.
So how are you going to be able to appeal to a voter in more conservative areas of the state? You know, areas like what Kathy is going to be dealing with. You know, and of course, the state of Missouri has never elected a black statewide, like we said. How do you increase
have
your
to pull some
appeal
tricks
to
out your
the
hat.
entire state?
I have to pull some tricks out your hat.
Yeah,
We letting you know
yeah.
that.
You're gonna need them all.
You know, I don't know that we'll need tricks so much as we'll just need to connect with people. I think.
Well,
when-
yeah, you're right, because he can be beat. I mean, just go to Jill Shoup. Jill Shoup was our senator. She ran against,
Ashcroft.
yeah, and she won. So you can do it.
Yes,
Matter
absolutely.
of fact, call Jill Shoup. That's what I would do if I was you. Like, Jill, what can I do?
Well, Jill's been supportive, and we've already been in touch a lot
Good.
of times. She's terrific. It's actually not as hard as we think, and the state, people say, oh, it's such a red state.
Break it down
but
to
here-
us, because I want to know.
Yeah, here it is, and it's very simple.
I do too.
People care about, will I be able to eat? Can I afford to feed my family? Have a good job? Can I afford to take care of my family if somebody gets sick? Can I afford to have a place to live? Can I afford to keep where I live? And will my children be better off than me? And when you go and you meet with people and they get a chance to look you in the eye, you get a chance to look them in the eye, and they see that you understand that, and they understand that I grew up in poverty. I mean, syrup sandwiches were a thing at our house. And
Me and my cousins used to scoop the rice in each other's hand and stuff. We try to eat the right, yeah. So
Yeah.
I'm with you on
yeah,
that.
and my dad and I used to go fishing, not because we liked each other's company,
Just so you can eat.
That's messed up.
but we went fishing. I mean, I liked my dad, but we went fishing so we could eat. And when people understand that and that's not so different from so many people in this state who are struggling to eat, who are struggling with health care. And so when you show people
Single moms.
single mothers,
Don't forget about the single
Single
moms.
mothers.
I was a single mom, so I'd like that to be on your platform.
yeah. So we're gonna connect with people. We're gonna have a chance to meet them, look them in the eye, show them that we understand the issues that they're going through. And when you do that, then it's not about left, right, or center.
Right.
It's about they see a candidate who understands their issues, who cares about their issues,
Right.
and is willing to take the time to come and meet them wherever they are. And a candidate who's not predisposing them to being on one side or the other, who's not prejudging them, who's giving them a fair shake, the same fair shake the candidate wants to be given by them. I think that's important, that voters don't think you've written them off because you think, oh, they're red voters or they're purple voters. But voters say, you know what, you're in play. Everybody, all 6 million plus people are in play for this election, because these things, this office, issues of this office are issues that everybody cares about. Everybody
Yeah.
believes in voting. That's what this country was founded on.
Right.
We threw the tea bags over the ship
Oh,
because
please
we
don't
said,
bring up the word tea. I think about the tea party back in the day.
well,
Okay.
we threw because we said we need to have a voice in this thing. And so no matter whether you're left or right or center, you believe in that. And that's what we're fighting for.
Okay. Are you getting any support from what I would call the Democratic establishment? You know the folks who've been around in politics in this state for years. I mean, do you think that
The Carnahans, the folks that have
have you
been,
talked to
been
Russ
around.
or
Yeah, we've had an opportunity. So I spent several months before I even announced that I was going to run doing just that. So
good?
I spent time with folks in the establishment, folks not in the establishment, folks all throughout the state, building that support, understanding their perspective on this race and this campaign. And so we've got the support of the establishment, we've got support of people who are not in the establishment, because we've taken the time to do that prior to announcing.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, the Missouri Scout reported that the Democratic Association of Secretaries of State might be targeting Missouri to bring some national money to support your campaign. Is that true? If that is, that's exciting.
Yeah, it's terrific, and we've heard the same. There was an article, the Missouri Scout, as you mentioned, reported it, but the Washington Post also reported it in a late August article, and so we think that'll be terrific if they do invest in this campain. We're gonna go hard regardless, but yeah, we've heard the same thing. So we're looking forward to any support that may come from them.
Okay.
And don't forget, I'll actually invite you out to some things. Don't forget about those minority areas. I know you won't because of where you've come from, but my suggestion is just to really, really focus on people that are gonna be like, you know what? Yeah, I ain't never voted in this, but I'm going out to vote for him because he does look like me. Or that kid that kind of how they looked at Wesley Bell, like. People were coming out. I said, I've never seen so many, like, thug-looking guys and all that, too. And I know it was the meaning of that election, but I see you being able to be hope to, people in the state of Missouri and bring them out, whether they're African-American, Asian, LGBT, like, all those kind of people are going to look at you as inspiration. So take that and just show your appreciation with it.
Thank you. And that's the kind of campaign that we want to run, a campaign that energizes and excites people all throughout St. Louis and Kansas City and Rollins, Saxon, everywhere.
Great
I think you're
idea.
right. This is a campaign that everybody can see themselves in.
Right.
Because it's a campaign
that's all I was
fighting
saying.
for
Why you over here hitting me?
We about to run out of
You always hitting me.
time. We about to run out of time.
Sometimes we
I'm
have
trying to stay
just, yeah.
All right. Well, anyway, we do want to thank Yinka and Kathy for joining us. Yinka Faleti, of course, is running for Secretary of State for the great state of Missouri, and Kathy Ellis is running for 8th Congressional District. And one last thing, I want to make sure you two end up doing some work together. All right?
Yes,
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
you heard that we bring people together here on Wine About the Region because they weren't together at first, but now look at them. They're going to work hard together. And Vicki, we need you. We need you to hook up with us.
I'm going to invite him to our diversity dinner in February.
All right.
That's
All right.
Crystal City.
But let's go ahead and wrap it up. And
Okay.
I'll leave you with this. We are the only solution to improve our own community. Teona, let's wrap it up.
Again, we'd like to thank you for tuning in. We are going to continue to whine about the region because we care. If you have any ideas or topics or interested in advertising on the show, you look for us on Facebook or email us at btwinery@gmail.com.
All right.
We still
And
got a
we
few
are
minutes.